This is the collage video, and we're gonna just go through the different supply options that you have. The trick is to really look. Everything will be labeled either by a color. This particular room, it happens to be green, and even the bends will be labeled sometimes by tape, sometimes by handle. So you're really gonna wanna hunt for your options because they'll be ever changing. Then the important thing to remember is you are welcome to experiment all you want as you learn and play with the material. But at the end of the day, if you don't have art out of it, you want to try and not damage the material so that it could go back. There will be bins available if for some reason you can't get it to go back where it came from, for you to be able to store it there. Also, if you realize your experimentation, like if you were wanting to do feathers, you don't want to experiment with a supply that you could damage. We want to make sure we're saving those so for the artwork only. So instead, you could make feathers out of paper to use in place of the real thing. Same with pipe cleaners. You know, if you're really got this great plan or idea for pipe cleaners, you might take a couple for the good of the cause so that you understand what they do, but after that you should be using supplemental materials that are cheap to replace. Also, it's important to notice in the collage setting, there's all sorts of unique supplies that again are ever changing, like we happen to have these random pair of scissors. So you want to just kind of dive in and act like you're 3, with the exception of you're going to try and return everything so you're not being wasteful. All right. Oh, as far as combining things together, we're going to give you a quick glue demonstration. So if you are needing to make artwork and you are needing hot glue, you're going to want to get out one of these mats. Your glue gun, if you haven't been to the 3D station, will be smaller than this one, but it works the same way. You have to turn the light switch on. You have to be conscientious that it's pushed in and that you have a light. You want to make sure that this doesn't have a light. If it does, you're not getting any power. And then this buildup can sometimes happen. To get that off, you use a mallet when it's unplugged and a scraper to kind of chisel it off, because they will leak every once in a while. Not due to poor handling, but just due to the nature of the supply. A neat little thing, particularly for the craft area, are these boards. You can essentially draw with the hot glue onto these boards, and you always want to kind of let the teacher know so they know you're not attempting to be wasteful. But you can draw into these boards, and once you've drawn something and it's dry, and you know it's dry because it's you can't see it very well, but it's cloudy, it will peel right off. And so now if you add a texture, or see, maybe I'm attempting to make some sort of bracelet or jewelry or sculpture, it's just kind of a fun way to be able to self-design what you're needing. This is the collage video, and we're going to talk about how to adhere things or stick things. So the first thing would be just starting with paper. So you have glue sticks at your station. Sometimes this is the easiest way to work it. There's 2 things to consider when gluing. One is, if I'm going to be gluing a lot of things down, then I might actually put the glue on the paper that I want to adhere it to. But if I'm only going to glue one thing down, I'm going to want to use scrap paper and apply the glue stick using the scrap paper, making sure that I get glue stick everywhere before I apply it to my actual thing. Then, if I'm going to do it everywhere, you don't want to cover the whole paper. You want to go space by space, kind of as you work. And the other thing to consider is, what if I'm wanting to layer it? So maybe I don't glue stick the whole thing down. because I'm wanting to be able to come in and add to it as I go. So you want to kind of think about that, and then we also have to consider craft. We don't want, if it's supposed to be glued down, then you need to glue it down. If it's not, if it's supposed to have a three-dimensional effect, then that's fine, but you need to make it look like it was intentional, right? Not sloppy. So if I wanted to do a 3D component, and this is pretty handy for things like pop-up books and things like that. It's how you can get that three-dimensional effect. Your other option with collage material is to actually do something like paper mache. This video is going to explain how to paper mache. So the first thing is, these buckets can be found, or buckets similar to this. Once you make up paper mache, you never clean out the bucket because that's wasteful. You just put the lid on it and allow the next person to use it. Then paper mache is made using glue, just straight up glue, 50% glue, which I've already poured some out, to 50% water. So visually, this is about the same amount of water to glue. And I slowly add it in, and then any sort of brush you can find is what you use to kind of slowly mix and make your paste. Should remind you of whole milk. So when I stick my hands in it, it sticks to my hand, but it doesn't really drip off. Also, it's slightly see-through. That is what you are looking for. Once you mix it up, you're often kind of messy, and it's a good time to go ahead and wash your hands. You need to use the orange Gojo in order to get this stuff off. Okay, then once you've mixed your paper mache, you come over to the messy area. You'll want to make sure that you put on a paint shirt, and then you have no electronics or jewelry on, and that if you have long hair, your hair is tied back. Then, hold on, let's tilt this up just a little bit. You will also already want your paper scraps or whatever you are going to be paper macheing on with pre-cut. No sharp supplies are allowed in this space, and that would lead to you not being allowed to use the messy area anymore if you violated those rules. Then all you do to paper mache is you take a brush, you have whatever you're wanting to paper mache, whether this happens to be a container, but a sculpture, whatever it is, you put a little paper mache paste down. You want to spread it so it's pretty thin. You can kind of see that in comparison to the other part. You take your paper, you have to make sure that there is glue underneath, so you'll see I'm kind of rubbing it around underneath what you are doing. So if I'm wanting to put this on the inside, I gotta put a little paste on there, and then I paste over the top. It's really important that your paper mache not be dripping off your container. Once you get little corners like this, with paper mache, you just fold them, and as long as you fold it and keep it tight to the form, those creases won't matter once it's all done. Sometimes you have to layer your paper mache paste, but really this is just glue. I mean, this is like watered down glue, so it works pretty well. You just put it over top. The only thing that doesn't work well is it doesn't really work well to paper mache onto paper, because this has water in it, and so you can already start to see what's happening to my paper is it's starting to bubble. You also can't paper mache huge swatches of paper, so you'll notice I'm working with smaller chunks. If you get things too big, they will bubble, they will tear, you'll have a mess all over the place. Lastly, paper mache comes out of clothes, but only things that can go on the washing machine on like high heat. so like hot water. So if you have shoes that can't go in the washing machine, you would want to take those off. With paper mache, you are responsible for the mess you make. So if you have a brush covered in paper mache glue, it's essential that you get all the glue out of that brush, or else it will be destroyed. We'll have to throw it away, and then once the brushes are gone, they're gone. So what you do is, here, let me tilt this up so you can see. Turn your sink on, then take some of the orange Gojo soap, and then you rub the soap into your hand with the brush. Don't forget the handle and get in all the bristles. This gets your hand clean at the same time. Think of it like a scrub brush. Get any of that, the paper mache you still have on your hands, and then you go until the water runs clean. See how now I don't have any more glue in my brush. Reform my brush, give it a little tap, making sure the water goes down into the sink, reform your brush, and then this is ready for the drying rack. Then lastly, if you've left a mess in the actual sink, it's important that we get a rag and wipe out any of that glue from the sink as well, which means now with this rag you're ready to head to your tabletop. All of this glue has to come off, or else I will shut down the messy area. So with warm water and a little bit of that orange Gojo soap in your rag, it comes right off. You also need to do a check on the floor, and then if you get the floor wet, you're responsible for making sure that you let people know that this is slick so that they don't fall down. All right, that is how you clean up from paper mache. Oh, don't forget, you gotta put the lid on the container, snap both sides so that it's secure, and return this to the area. That's it.